Distance yourself from familiar people. There was once a writer who went through a particularly confused and aimless period. Every day felt mundane, and he constantly longed for change but didn't know where to begin. One day, he came across a quote that hit him like a bolt of lightning. When you are always surrounded by the same familiar people, receiving the same familiar opinions and perspectives, why do you think your life will be any better than before? A person's level and status are often no higher than the average of those closest to them. Truly successful people won't stay stuck in the same cycle with you at the bottom. If you want to rise from the bottom, you must start by distancing yourself from those you know too well. There was once a renowned scholar who, for most of his life, was a lazy and unmotivated playboy. It wasn't until he turned 27 that he realized he couldn't continue living this way, so he secluded himself and began studying diligently. One day, a friend came to visit, but the servant turned him away, saying, "The master is studying and cannot see any guests." The friend quickly replied, "But I'm not just any guest, I'm a close friend." To his surprise, the servant said, "The master has given special instructions, especially not to allow close friends in." 3 factors have the greatest influence on a person's life: habits, perspectives, and the people closest to you. It takes months to develop a good habit and years to build a solid cognitive framework. But how you deal with the people closest to you is a decision you can make in an instant. Distancing yourself from familiar people won't change your life overnight, but it will force you to focus on the things that can truly transform your life. There was a history professor who used to work as a bank employee. One evening, as he was walking a friend home for dinner, he suddenly took a detour, adding 10 extra minutes to their walk. His friend asked, "Is the alley blocked for repairs?" The banker laughed, "No, but my friends are always playing cards and chess in that alley around this time. If I walk past, I won't be able to resist their invitation, and I'll end up wasting a couple of hours." For 7 years, he avoided that alley and didn't see his old friends. Instead, he spent those 2 hours every day in his study. This was how he transformed from an ordinary bank employee to a renowned history professor. Familiar people remain familiar because neither of you have changed. So, when you're ready for a change, distancing yourself from them may be your best option. It's not about being cold, it's about being responsible for your own growth. There's a highly discussed topic online: why shouldn't you always stick around familiar people? One response that received countless upvotes said, "They'll only tell you what you want to hear." In the comments, 2 real stories stood out. One user, Kiki, joined a startup after graduating. She worked more than 12 hours a day, but her salary was only at the intern level compared to larger companies. However, she admired the founder's vision and dedication. Just when she was feeling conflicted, a friend gave her some advice: "Don't sacrifice your life for a job." Thinking she'd been enlightened, Kiki immediately resigned and soon found a job with less stress and better pay. But within 2 years, the startup went public, and even her former juniors became financially independent. Another anonymous user worked for 2 years and felt she needed to save more money. But her colleagues constantly invited her to go out shopping or to parties. Whenever she hesitated, they'd say, "If you just save money when you're young, by the time you have enough, you'll be too old to enjoy it." That hit home, so she started spending freely without any guilt. Later, when her father suffered a stroke, she had no savings for his medical bills and was overwhelmed with anxiety. Often, the people you spend time with aren't intentionally holding you back, they simply share the same worldview. Their advice will naturally lean toward keeping you where you are. Spending too much time with familiar people may give you a sense of being understood, but over time, you'll find yourself stagnating, trapped in a life of mediocrity. Doug Leone, a partner at Sequoia Capital, once said, "I didn't realize how poor I was until I made a little bit of money." What did he mean by that? Doug once ran a small shop, and through his hard work, business thrived. As he accumulated wealth, he got the opportunity to meet new people in the investment world. They often made billion-dollar deals over a single meal, a sum equivalent to a century of his shop's earnings. It was then that he realized, in his old circle, he was considered successful. But to these new acquaintances, he and his old friends were still at the bottom. Striving for success isn't about showing off to familiar faces. If you always surround yourself with small minds, no matter how high you jump, you'll never escape the well. French painter Jean-François Millet was hailed as a genius by those around him. Yet despite all the praise, his paintings couldn't sell, and he lived in poverty. At one point, he even had to trade his best work for a pair of used shoes. At the age of 35, Millet left the city where he had lived for many years. While traveling, he met Impressionist masters like Corot and Troyon. Comparing his work to theirs, Millet realized he was far behind in composition, color, and technique. His friends had praised his work simply because they had never seen better art. From that point on, Millet sought out opportunities to learn from more accomplished artists, and his talent flourished through those interactions. If one day you find that the number of close friends around you is growing, you should be cautious. It's a sign that your life has become too tightly bound. True mentors never come disguised as familiar faces. Opportunities never come from gifts given by familiar people. Leaving your comfort zone and engaging with people on a higher level will allow you to see your own limitations. You can then turn that gap into motivation for progress. Management guru Peter Drucker once mentioned a diving theory. In shallow waters, you'll find small fish. In deep waters, the big fish swim. When you find yourself always surrounded by a school of small fish, no matter how far you swim, you're still just treading in shallow water. Isn't life the same? You can never expect those who live the same life as you to help elevate your life to a higher level. Leaving those people behind means you're stepping into a new chapter.